Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name is Chris Calabucas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation, startups, the future. Not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcast. I'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now, I was at a meetup just the other day. It was an interesting meetup. It was about innovation outposts in the Bay Area, companies who have people in these locations. And the reason they have it here is because they want to get some of that Silicon Valley magic dust. I mean, I've told you this before, or I've talked about this before on blog posts and on the show, that there's something about this area, right? There's something about this area, something about Silicon Valley that people tend to think is amazing, right? There's something about Silicon Valley that amazes people. They want to have people here. They want to send people here to drink deeply of the magic dust. I don't know how you drink deeply of dust. I guess you can inhale the dust of Silicon Valley and then take that back to wherever you happen to be, wherever you happen to live, the innovation, the disruption, the change, the opportunity, the serendipity, whatever it is, and then take it back to your company. It's almost like there's a heady brew of innovation here, and people come here to drink of it and then go back to wherever they are. And we were talking about innovation at this meetup, and I thought it was interesting that there was a lot of discussion on ESG. And a lot of focus on ESG. Now, this might be a bit of a controversial episode. Some people might say, Calabucas, what are you talking about? This is very controversial, this position that you've got. So we were going through the panel, and I was talking to somebody on the panel, and she was talking about, to the crowd, she was talking about how important it is to innovate in the ESG space. And there's innovations in ESG that are important. So environmental, social, governance. You've seen what ESG, you know what ESG is all about. It's about diversity and inclusion. It's about the environment. It's about having a more equitable workplace. And as a libertarian, I really have a problem with those things because if you ask me, those are from the past. Those are problems that have been here for a while. And sure, we need to do something about them. But I don't know if you could say innovation in ESG and put those two things together, because I think ESG is basically overtaking everything. It's overtaking everything. And it's overtaking innovation. It's overtaking innovation, where we could be thinking about, because here's my thought. Here's my concept of innovation, is that as a human being, I want the entirety of the human race to flourish. The entirety of the human race to flourish. I want the planet to flourish. I want the human race to flourish. And even all of the animals and plants and whatever else on this planet to flourish. I want everything to flourish. And I think we should be looking at the future, of developing things in the future for a future where we all flourish. We're not divisive at all. We're building things that are good for everyone and everything. Lifting things up above a level of ESG, right? Because if you ask me, ESG is righting wrongs of the past. So instead of righting wrongs of the past, why can't we take our big brains and look at developing innovations that will help all humans flourish? Go beyond the immediate issues that we're discussing now, the problems that we're trying to solve, and look beyond that to a future where the problems are already solved, and then work back to that. You see, it's kind of like the problem I was talking about with minimum viable products, minimum viable domiciles, minimum viable work, all of these things. We have been thinking really hard about solving the problems that we have now, instead of imagining a future where these problems are solved, and then working backwards, because that's the quickest way to figure something out, to get to today. What is the minimum amount of space a human being needs to live in? What is the kind of work a human being needs to be able to do? What kind of education do human beings need in order to flourish in this world that we're imagining? We're not going there first before we step back and say, how do we get to that point? We're starting from today and working our way forward. Starting from today and working our way forward, if you ask me, is the hard way to do it. It's like going through a maze the way they want you to go through. You don't go through a maze forward, you go through a maze backwards. You go through a maze backwards and it becomes so much easier. So much easier. So instead of going, let's figure out how to change the zoning laws so we get more housing, low-income housing, say, let's figure out what the ideal housing unit is, then let people put them in. You see what I'm saying? I think when we look at today, the problems of today, we tend to come up with a solution of today. And this is one of the things I admire about Elon Musk, is that he doesn't look at solutions of today. He looks at solutions of tomorrow. He presents solutions that cannot be built today. It requires a technological leap, a mental leap, a social leap to get to that point. And what I'm doing is I'm asking everybody out there to do the same thing. Leap mentally into that world where all these goals are reached. And if you can leap mentally into a world where all these goals are reached, then it's easy to work backwards to get to this point. And then when you work backwards to get to this point, you can envision products and services and policies and things that we need to do to get us to that future point. But without envisioning the end, how can you get there? All of our goals are short terms. I read a word the other day that I thought was really interesting, and I'm going to add this to my personal description. Long-termist. Let's all be long-termists and stop thinking about the problems that are in front of us today and think about how we're going to solve for the future and then work backwards to address the problems of today. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.